Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Bassell. We are going to be dividing whole numbers by decimals using models today. So we are using some of these decimal grids that we've used before when we worked with fractions. So let's just review how these work. The large square represents one whole, and we can see that the way that it's divided, there are 100 equal parts inside this one whole. So each one of these little squares is 1/100th. So if you look at it, each row and each column have 10 of the hundredths in them. So one row or one column is actually 1/10. All right. If you could take out the individual squares, you would see you have 10 columns or 10 rows. All right. So we worked with these with fractions. So we know that fractions and decimals can name equivalent amounts. So we've already worked with these. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about how they work, but we do know that this is one whole. We're going to divide this one whole into 25 hundredths. So we want to know how many 25 hundredths are in this one whole. So I'm just going to use some color because I think it'll make it easier for you to see. If you want to grab colored pencils or even if you have some highlighters, that would work. So I know that 25 hundredths would be two columns. That would be the 20 hundredths, and then 5 of another column. All right, so that's 25 hundredths. All right, I'm going to continue and I'm going to look at another group of 25 hundredths. All right, then I'm going to look at another group. And I'm just going to continue breaking up this one whole into 25 hundredths. Equal groups of 25 of the little hundredths is what I'm doing. And what you will see then is how many groups of 25 hundredths make up one whole. All right, so I see 4 groups of 25 hundredths equals our one whole. So that related math fact is very helpful. So one whole divided into 25 hundredths, I have 4 groups of 25 hundredths. All right, let's look at another example. This time we're dividing 2 into groups of 5/10. So here are our 2 wholes, the 2 large rectangles. They're broken into hundredths, but we already know that one column would be 1/10. So what we're doing is we're going to shade groups of 5/10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hopefully what we see is if the whole model is 10/10 and we've shaded 5/10, we're just shading half of each of these models. All right, my shading isn't that great, but you get the gist of it. All right, and when I finished, we see that there are 4 groups of 5/10 in these 2 holes. So what I know is that 2 groups of 5/10 equals these 2 holes. So again, that related multiplication fact tells me that 2 divided into groups of 5/10, there are 4 of those groups. All right, it's just coincidental that 1 and 2 have the same answer or the same quotient. All right, let's work on number 3. We're dividing 3 wholes, here they are, into groups of 2/10. So we're going to shade groups of 2/10. And I'll be honest, I'm just going to use 2 colors here, and I'm just going to alternate every other group of 2/10. All right, I'm wrapping it up with my last model, and I'm shading 2 columns because 2 columns are 20 hundredths, but it's also 2/10. Each column is one of 10 equal parts in our one whole models. All right, and although I just am using two colors, we can still count how many groups of 2/10 there are. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I see 15 groups of 2/10 equal 3 wholes. Okay, so 3 wholes divided into groups of 2/10, there are 15 of them. So I'm going to stop there. I think that's plenty of models. So what I see happening is when I'm dividing a whole number into decimal parts, I really want to know how many of those smaller decimal parts make up that whole number. So I have a whole number answer. All right, I want to know how many of those decimal parts make up the whole number that I started with as the dividend. Okay. So there we go. We're dividing whole numbers by decimals with models. And you boys and girls have a couple that you will be practicing on your own with a handout very similar to this. You can either color your models with multiple colors or you can just stick to 2 colors, okay? All right. Have a good day.